And they want to make sure that you're not worried about a thing. They sent out their new team president to let you know that they are on schedule, to let you know that they've got the best people and they're working every day. I worked every day to get a new ballpark, not for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. Hold on, let me think. 10 years. Every day I did something for a ballpark. And when construction started in about July of 09, the plan was that I'd be down on site or doing meetings or meeting with the construction manager or with your contractors or subcontractors or the architects every single day. Talk about Zoom meetings, which there weren't Zoom meetings back then, but there were meetings that we did every day on everything, because you're not just talking about and worried about the tariffs and the price of steel or aluminum or prefabricated concrete. You're worried about figuring FF&E, furniture's fixtures. You're worried about where the outlets are going to be, because you got to have that in the construction plans, in the design documents, and then in the construction documents. But we're meant to believe that everything's going swimmingly. And what's not being talked about much within the great nuggets of PR, which tell you not to worry, which, side note, Coca, the more someone tells me not to worry about something that I know is really a very tough needle to thread, I happen to worry with inverse correlation. So what do we know? We know that John Fisher's trying to sell part of his team at a $2 billion valuation. Crickets. We know that Goldman Sachs was willing to give about $300 million combined with US Bank in a construction loan at what is guaranteed to be a usurious interest rate, because there's no other way to borrow money, given the fact that all of the pro formas for the ballpark assume absolute Disney World type fantasy. Sometimes it's just a fantasy that can turn into a reality, but mostly only the good die young. So once you have the $300 million in construction loan, which is guaranteed by the AFs, then Fisher puts in another $550. We're up to $850 million. Then the assumption is there'll be $550 million in investor contributions. That's code word, because I don't think they want you to realize what that means. An investor contribution is someone who invests in the team, which is a team contribution. So John Fisher's on the hook for 2 times $550 for those scoring at home. And even if you're David, that's $1.1 billion. Then you add the 300 construction loan. You're up to $1.4 billion. What does that leave? About $350 million in public funding. So what came out yesterday, or was further discussed yesterday, is one of the things that the public is trying to do, because the county has to give $120 million, and then the county's doing a bunch of infrastructure, the state's doing $180 million, yada, yada, yada. They came up with what they believe is going to solve all of their problems from a public standpoint. They are going to do an improvement district. Do you know what an improvement district is? It's when you've got a plot of land that's not doing anything or generating any taxes, and you improve upon it to build something. You can build a hotel, you can build housing, you can build retail, you can build a stadium, a convention center, a theater. And the theory is that taxes will be generated by that newly built whatever it is. And taxes come in the form of, when you buy a ticket, there's a tax on the ticket. When you buy a Coke, when you buy a shirt, when you park, when you buy materials in order to build on a particular lot, there are taxes that are generated. And what the public does is they say, hey, it's but for, if we didn't have this beautiful structure on this plot of land, 9 acres, by the way, ridiculous to build a stadium on 9 acres, smallest lot in Major League Baseball, no chance of a district around it where they can make money. So how it is that John Fisher believes that he can convince anyone to give him money for any amount of money that's generated by the stadium, where it is impossible to believe that it will generate anything close to even the debt service required to pay back the interest on these loans. But I digress. When the taxes are generated on that area, what you do is you give those taxes, if you're the county or if you're the state, you give them back to the entity that built the structure and say, hey, you can use those taxes that you've generated. Don't pay us, pay the bank back for the money that you borrow. So when a bank lends you money, you get to say, well, I'm going to pay it back because my franchise is worth a lot of money. And then the bank says, well, wait a minute. You've already collateralized that. So what else do you have? I've got a great national TV deal in revenue sharing. And the bank says, no, that's for the other money that you borrow. That really has been pledged elsewhere. What about the stadium revenues? Well, you can definitely pledge that. Let's take a look at what the stadium revenues are. Well, we're going to draw 30,000 people a game, 2.4 million. Let's say attendance dips to 2 million only because we're going to have about 6,000 tourists every single game walking to this amazing 9-acre plot on the strip. And the state and county say, great, we'll do an improvement district. We'll give you all the tax money that you would normally pay to us. Give it to the bank. How much can you borrow? And then you do the math and you say, uh-oh, that's not really enough. And the public says, but that's all we have to give. And we're going to tell the public that once the improvement district, once the bonds are paid off, the improvement district is going to be discontinued. It's one of the great grifts that the public does. They say to you, we're going to raise the tax right now. We're going to give the tax to this public entity, to this private entity building this stadium. Then when all the bonds are paid off, no worries, mate. We'll cancel the district and the tax funds will be paid back to the public to be used for first responders and teachers and whatever else general revenue is used for. And then the public forgets about it. Time passes. And when the improvement district is due to expire, they renew it. Because by the time it expires, either Oakland, Sacramento / Vegas Aths will need a new ballpark, or they'll have to fully renovate this ballpark that's currently being built. And to do that, they're going to need public money. And what the public will say is, hey, we'll keep the improvement district in place. We'll give you access to these tax funds. It's a pretty normal business story. And when you're dealing with your own business or dealing with whatever you are doing during the course of a day, just know this. When you give something, be prepared that you're never going to get it back. When you say, hey, it's a 10-year deal, I will lend my friend $10,000 and pay me back in 10 years, you're likely not going to get paid back. When you give someone a lease break, it is very unlikely that the tenant, the lessee, is going to forget about that break and stay with you and not ask for that break to continue. It's very normal. So I'm not criticizing the public in Nevada for saying that they're going to end the improvement district. I'm just telling you they're not actually going to end the improvement district. So the Athletics are hoping to break ground in June, and they sent their new president out, Mark Bedane, who has built Allegiant Stadium, wanted to make sure you knew what great people are working for it and how hard they're working. And I thought back to our groundbreaking, Coke. I forgot to ask you to pull a photo from Marlins groundbreaking in July of 2009. It was a whole big ceremony. We have Benito Santiago and Charlie Huff, who were the original battery for the Marlins in 93. And we had them throw a first pitch on the ground where the ballpark was being built. We had a home plate installed where home plate was actually going to be. It was about 170 degrees in the shade that day. We all had celebratory shovels, and we brought the public entity in, the county commissioners, the city commissioners. We had the commissioner wouldn't come, but Bob Dupay came, the president of baseball at the time, and we celebrated as though we had done something amazing, except that was only the start. And so all of the narrative that this is such a huge accomplishment to get to the groundbreaking Keep in mind the hard stuff comes when you're trying to build a ballpark on time and on budget. And given the state of the economy, given where we are with tariffs and with the cost of materials, given the fact that it's not a guaranteed maximum price, given the fact that the aths are due and responsible for overruns, I can tell you that this is the story that will keep on giving.